Welcome to the Soul of Innovation podcast. I am Thomas Anglero, and I want to tell you a few stories and then ask you a question. I was in the store yesterday, and in front of me was this beautiful woman, probably late 40s, early 50s, and her whole life she had been and had known she was beautiful. As I stood there on line, or as I approached the line, or the cash register, whatever, she glanced at me, smiled, turned her head sideways. She knew the game of how to act and behave and keep the attention and keep the radiance of beauty. And as I stood behind her, that first moment, behind me came another woman who bumped into me so that I would turn around and smile at her. And she wanted my attention. But she then looked at the other woman, and let's say the look wasn't so nice. And I wondered at that moment, should I talk to them both? So I stood there, letting the moment go, letting to see what happened. The woman in front continued to play the game of I know I am beautiful. I know I am radiant. Sort of the game. When you're so attractive, you want to keep everyone looking at you. The woman behind me played the game of making noises and doing whatever she can to attract attention to herself. What I kept on wondering was why aren't any of us, the three of us who are playing this trio game, not talking to one another? What are we thinking? Let me tell you another story. I did a presentation the other day. I started the presentation off by introducing myself, saying the things I had done in the past, because I thought this would motivate the listeners, that they would say, wow, this person is someone who's distinguished, has accomplished many things. And therefore the listeners would go, I really want to ask him questions. That was not the outcome. I did the similar presentation a couple of months ago where I didn't introduce myself. And I thought, and afterwards, no one asked any questions. So I thought, this time I would introduce myself and stimulate them. But again, no one talked. So let me ask you, why are we not talking to one another? We're all on this planet, living here at the same time. So why aren't we talking to one another? When I was on the line at the grocery store, I wanted to ask the woman in front of me two questions, or one question. And that was, you know you're beautiful. Do you exist there? Or do you know you're beautiful and you moved on? And they're playing the game of I am beautiful, I must pose my hair, pose my neck, tilt my head, wink, glance, all these things. At what age do you stop doing that? At what age do you just turn to someone and just talk? And spending all that time thinking about how beautiful you are and keeping that going. At what age do you begin to just talk to those people who you are trying to attack to and say hello? The woman behind me, at what age do you start just talking to me and saying hello? The people I've been presented to without an introduction of myself and with an introduction of myself, at what age do you start to talk to people and say hello? So let me ask you, what age have you started to talk to people and say hello? Interesting question. Why don't you talk to strangers? Why don't you talk to your colleagues They're people just like you. Insecurities just like you. Hang-ups just like you. Problems, financial problems, emotional problems, questions over the essence of what is life, what is happiness. And yet we don't talk. And yet, don't you realize we're all the same? As I travel around the world in this life I've had, I may not know all the languages, but I know all the stories because they're all the same. And that's why it's so easy to talk to people. Because whether you pick up an object or not, we all look at the object pretty much the same. Why don't you talk to the person in front of you online? Is it because society says you're not supposed to, or is it because of the insecurity that you have? I, too, am guilty of this. But I would love to have asked this woman that question. Maybe she would have slapped me. Maybe the word has been coming up a lot lately. Maybe it would have been creepy, but God, would that have been a great question. Do you exist to perpetuate your beauty, or do you exist to use that beauty to exist? To talk to people, to bond with people? Do you take the frustration that no one sees you and just stay frustrated? Or instead of being frustrated, you tap someone on the shoulder and say, "Hi, my name is." It's interesting, these correlations of what happens in life, what happens in a line waiting at a store, what happens at work, all leads to the same thing. Why and when do we start talking to one another? That's how we fall in love. That's how we laugh. That's how we cry, by sharing things. But if you don't talk to someone, then you miss out on the laughing. You miss out on the crying. And you miss out on the love. Speak from your heart. Don't let a moment go when you're on the cash register line. Don't let a moment go when you have opportunity to talk to someone, anyone. You need to speak. Your voice must be heard. It's your life. The time you're using with me right now, this valuable time, and I truly do appreciate that you are listening. It's time that you cannot get back. So that means the time that you have a chance to speak to someone, when if you don't speak to that person, you cannot get that back. It's like closing a door. Because you never opened the door. If you'd have spoke to them, it would have opened the door and it would have been a world of possibilities. Maybe they would have said nothing. But if they say something, and there's probably a huge chance they will, whatever they say opens a new door of new possibilities, new experiences. How many doors have you closed in your life because you refuse to speak to someone? Because you're scared, you're shy. Go forth and spread beauty and light and speak to everyone. Speak from your heart, speak from your soul. This is your moment, this is your life, this is it. There's no reason to be alone, no reason to be insecure. You won't come off as an idiot. I remember a friend of mine told me a long time ago that he goes up to women, it doesn't matter who they are, any pretty woman, he says, and he approaches them, introduces himself, and says, "I'd like to take you out to dinner." He goes, 19 out of 20 always say no, but one always says yes. At that moment, I thought he was crazy, but since then, I realized he's a genius. What he was telling me indirectly is, Thomas, speak. Because one person will open that door. And you'll share a life of friendship, a life of happiness, a life of stories together. But if you don't speak, 20 out of 20 people will never touch your life. and you'll never change. And all we have to do is move our lips to have the most beautiful, enriched, emotionally, spiritually gifted life we've ever dreamt of. That's all we have to do. I love you. I know you can do better. I know I can do better. Call a spade a spade. Let's speak to one another. Let's take care of one another. We're all we got. I am Thomas Inglero, your biggest fan, your biggest supporter, reminding you, not trying to embarrass you, but just reminding you of not who you are, but what you are. You are loved, embodied in a shell, called a human, but you are love. You give, you receive, you embrace love. So next time you have an opportunity to speak to someone, speak and let the love flow. Take care of yourself. Until the next time. Thank you for listening to that episode. If you want to contact me, you can contact me on my website at inglero.com, and you can also subscribe to the newsletter. Or you can find me anywhere on social media with Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you so much, and I hope to hear from you very soon.